morning or whatever time of the day it is wherever you are watching this. Today I want to share with you my experience with speaking anxiety over the years with speaking a foreign language and just speaking and anxiety in general. Because I know that this is huge, and I know that for me this is something that is very, very close to me. And especially with anxiety, and especially just growing up as a very introverted, and not just introverted, but just very self-conscious and insecure person as a child. And I know that those of you guys who see me on here now, you're probably like, what? But trust me, if you saw me, you would not recognize me. But my experience with this has been many years in the making of just evolving to where I am now, and it hasn't been easy. And I know that there are a lot of people who are where I was, who are further along than me, who are anywhere along this spectrum of speaking anxiety. But I want to share my experience, and I want to help anyone who is maybe going through something similar to me, or just who wants to learn about my experience. So with anxiety, a little bit of background actually about my anxiety and speaking more on the anxiety side is that if anyone knows anxiety, it's me. I've actually been diagnosed with a general anxiety disorder, and I've been taking medication for anxiety for over a year. And while this is, this is an extreme case, and not everyone needs that, and if you do need that, there's no harm in it, and that's why I want to share that. Like, whatever you need to get to your goals, whatever you do, that's personal, that's for you. And for a long time I was afraid to share that because I felt like I would be judged. But it's like this, just the stigma that's around mental health is like the same stigma that's around anxiety and speaking and being self-conscious and all of this, and we're afraid to push ourselves to that next level and outside of that comfort zone because we're afraid of being judged. So I want to just start, and I want to share that yes, I have anxiety. Yes, I legitimately have anxiety and take medication for it. And I have worked on it in other ways as well, especially over the last year, just really working on myself and my confidence. And the more that I've learned within language, like the more that I've developed my skills, the more confident I've become as well. So it definitely all works together, and it really is an integrated approach to not just language learning, but to life. And what I really want to share with you guys here is that wherever you are in your process is okay. It is okay if you are terrified to start speaking another language, because I was there, and I know that even if you are at the point right now where you're like, man, I can't even get a few words out, I can't even get a sentence out in this new language, like it's okay. You can achieve at least my level of fluency because I've been there. I remember when I was learning Spanish and I felt that way, and I was terrified, and my brain hurt, and I couldn't speak, and I was just so afraid that I would say the wrong things, I would sound weird, that it just wouldn't work, that all of the fears, some rational, some irrational, a little bit of everything. But I have experienced that, and I've overcome it. And the way that I've done that is really just by continuing to push and push and push myself. And it is challenging, and it's not like a change that happens immediately. Like, I've been learning Spanish for over a decade now, and when I started I was a teenager, and it was even more challenging because it's difficult being a teenager, and aside from language learning. But it was just like a little bit, like each time and each day, each year, each whatever it is, I would just push a little bit further. And that is what I recommend above all else with really any aspect of your life, moving toward any goal that you have, is just to like have that goal, whether it is to overcome speaking anxiety, to become more proficient in your language, to become a better person, to do, achieve your career goals, to whatever it is. Just have that goal and then just push yourself a little bit, even if it's just a tiny bit closer toward achieving that goal. And then eventually you will get there. Eventually you get closer and closer and closer and closer and closer. And of course, there's always going to be improvement. So you're always going to be doing this. Like, this is a lifelong process, because even when you get to the goal that you thought was your goal, like I thought my goal was achieving fluency in Spanish, and I got there, and then I realized, hey, there are layers of fluency to achieve. So there's always going to be more. But that's actually part of why it's so valuable to understand that I can just become a little bit better each time, each day, a little bit better, add a little bit more. And it makes it more attainable, because it's not like, oh man, I have to complete all of this. It's just a matter of, okay, what can I do that's going to move me closer toward my goals? You do it, and then you're like, yeah, I accomplished something. So, because the goals are always shifting, there's always more, but what you can do is make small accomplishments that over time, over gradual improvement, eventually you just keep going, and there's no end. You keep going, and then eventually you might decide to stop, or you might just keep going then for the rest of your life. But for anxiety, like I know it's a lot. I know it's like, for me, it always felt like, so the reason I started taking my medication for anxiety was that to alleviate my physical pain of anxiety, like chest pain and stomach pain, and the emotions are still there. The feelings of being overwhelmed sometimes are still there, but what's not still there is that physical chest and stomach pain that like full-on anxiety attacks. Those are not so much there, but it still is something that I have to manage, and it still is something that I do feel it. But now, having that, I've been able to, over the last year or so, I've been able to really work on the underlying causes of it, so that I potentially won't need it forever, and I would like to not be on it forever. But I've had the opportunity to really look at what has been causing this anxiety, because I have it around language learning, I have it around learning, around life, around everything. Like, I would wake up and just be like, I'm anxious, what am I going to get done today? For me, it's like, am I going to get enough done today? I've got to get so much done. I'm that hyper productive person, and I know people are like, what, how is that an issue? But it can be an issue when you work yourself into exhaustion, which is something that I have been guilty of. And so for me, it's been a balance between toning it down and then also continuing to progress toward those goals, and then eventually finding a balance now to where I can actually take breaks from my work and not worry about not being productive, and actually being more productive in the process, because I take some time away to recharge and to just freshen up my perspective, and then jump back in and have so much energy to come back in. And the way that I've done this is just it's just trial and error, quite honestly. I've tried all the different things, and the biggest thing that I had to get past was just allowing myself to try all these things, to experiment with all of these different ways, to try different strategies and follow them step by step by step by step, and then allow myself to integrate those into my own process, which you guys know is what I teach. Yes, there are step-by-step processes, but there's not a step-by-step process that is perfect for you. You can use those processes, those books, those courses, those whatever they are, and learn from them. But then ultimately what's going to make you successful is integrating those into your own process. But before we can do that, we need to really understand those strategies and those processes. So it really does just begin with yourself. And I've noticed that going through that process, beginning with myself and really just allowing myself to go through these processes and to follow these strategies, and just not feeling like I have to do things any certain way. Like, it's okay to follow a process. It's okay to do pretty much anything, really, as long as it's, it's not hurting anyone else. It's not like, it doesn't affect anyone else. You're just practicing. Like, it's okay to do whatever you need to do. And you don't have to do anything any one way. Because there's so much of that out there. There's so much of just like, this is the right way, do it this way, do it this way, do it this way, do it this way, and you're like pulled in all these different directions, and it's too much, and it's overwhelming, and it's like, oh man, I don't learn that way, I don't operate that way, how do I be like that? And I was caught up in that for so long. Like, how do I be like this? How do I be like this? Like, this is what a successful language learner is, this is what a successful teacher is, this is how you do this. And I'm not that. Like, what's wrong with me? I'm not that. The anxiety, just like coming in. And it took a long time to say, like, this is a strategy. This isn't the way. This is a strategy. This is a strategy. This is a strategy. This is a strategy. Let me just try all these different things. Let me just listen to myself. Let me just like close my eyes and relax and decompress, and let me think, what do I want to try? Jump in and try it. So I jump in and try it, and then maybe I'm like, oh man, I hate this, I don't want to do this. Or I try it and I'm like, oh, I like this part of it, or I just love this, and then I integrate it into my own process. So biggest thing, honestly, is just little steps. Just like with that, like, man, I'm gonna try this, I'm gonna try this, I'm gonna try this. And just knowing that within yourself, that you are going to be able to continue to progress. And that has been really what has allowed me to overcome my anxiety around speaking, around anything, around everything, is just really accepting that everything that I do, especially language learning, is a lifelong process, and I'm never going to finish it, because my anxiety, at least, has been mostly around like, gotta get this done, gotta get this done, get it done, get it done, get it done. But that just doesn't happen. It's never going to be all done. There's always going to be more. There are always going to be levels. And when I finally accepted that, when I just said, my progress is my accomplishment, that just gave me so much calm, so much peace, just to know that as long as I'm taking little steps toward my goals, I am successful. And you are too. As long as you have a general idea of where you're going, and it's okay if it changes, it's okay if you're going to adjust it over time, you probably will. But as long as you're making a little bit of progress, you are successful. And yes, there are markers of achieving goals. If you're studying to pass a test, if you're going to school, you're getting a degree, different things. But that is not the end. Once you get that degree, once you pass that test, that is not the end. That is only one of those steps. And yes, it's maybe a little bit of a larger step than like, I'm gonna speak in a full sentence today in my language. It's a larger step than that. But it is a step nonetheless, but it is just that. And when we finally just realize that hey, my whole life I'm going to be learning, I'm never going to be done, it takes off that pressure, because it says my progress is my success. And if you take anything away from this video today, your progress is your success. When you jump in there and you begin progressing toward your goals, just making a little bit of improvement each day, that is your success. That is what makes you a lifelong learner, a successful language learner. That is what does it. not finishing a language, not starting another one and having all these languages, but your own personal accomplishments, your own steps toward your goals. And yeah, that is what I have to share today on speaking anxiety. And this has been on my mind for quite a while now, this video, this topic, and I just finally felt like I was ready to share this part of my life, my experience, myself, and I hope that it helps those of you out there who need it. And thank you so much for sticking around until the very end of this video. Bye guys!